Wake up, the footy's back!
Did you hear that?
It's back! Let's go!
I'll just unmute myself now and we'll intro that again. Welcome everyone. Tuesday Night Live. Technical glitches as usual. Macca's camera not appearing as usual. Dear, it's what a time to be alive, Macca. How you going?
Oh, pretty good, mate. Pretty good. It was good. Really happy about the weekend and all the overall results. So, yeah, life's good.
Fantastic. Don't forget, those that are listening, you can join us on Discord. We are live and interactive so that you can get around it, have your say, stick your hand up and we can get you on the chat and you can have your say along with us. Just like 5AA, Macca, just like calling in on 5AA. The only difference is you've already taken all the Sammy's vouchers, so there's no more of that.
I'm very disappointed about it. They cut those vouchers out, so I don't ring them now.
They didn't cut them out. They ran out of them. That's what happened. And I know that they've been emailing you saying, "Look, can you send a few back because we've run out."
Well, actually, I've still got a couple of things. I have one recently, so I haven't used them yet, but got to do it.
Look, as I said, don't forget on Discord you can join us. Discord in general, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't actually joined our Discord channel as yet, Mac, it's well worth your while doing so. There's lots of chat during the week on Crows and AFL. There is lots of playing stats. There's tipping comps. There's best and fairest. There's stats on demand. There's all sorts of stuff going on, and well worth having a look in there and joining the community. The link to all that is in the description if you'd like to join. Also, of course, if you're watching us on YouTube or on any of our socials, please follow us on our socials on Facebook, X and Instagram, although we don't do much on Instagram, to be perfectly honest. But if on YouTube you can like and subscribe and become a member and all that sort of stuff. So it's all going on our socials, Macca. All right, let me just quickly have a look. I will ask you first of all, mate. What was your feeling about the weekend? What was your overall feeling?
You mean just of the whole competition as a whole?
No, our game.
Our game? Well, it was an interesting game in the sense that it was played probably in about three different ways in the one game. I think that our powers that be decided that in the past, we've got done by Pats being a little bit too daring and turning the ball over. Collingwood, as we know, play the boundary a lot. They really do. And it seemed like we decided we'd do a Collingwood for the first half and really made it a very boring game. But we were also really denying ourselves with proper opportunities to score. When there were clearly opportunities, we could have gone down the middle without risk. So, but we stuck to what the game plan was, and that first half was what it was. And I just think that there was a lot of missed opportunity in that first half. The third quarter, we played the game that we should have been playing. We've got a really good forward line. Their defence is, they didn't have, their captain, but their defence is pretty good. But their forwards don't match up to our forwards. So really, we had an advantage that we should have been taking advantage of, and we did that in the third quarter. And I think that's where the game was won. We, in the last quarter, we started to run out of legs a little bit because of the fact they had that extra game, that little bit of advantage, and they came at us. But what I loved is that we dug deep, mate, and we actually stopped it. And we went and just actually increased it a little bit and won the game. So I was really, really proud of the boys because they were stuffed at the end. We took some gambles in the game. We gave McAndrew the rucks, and I thought that we could talk about that later. But I was very proud of what his job was and how he did it.
Yeah.
So all I can say is that the only thing I thought was wrong with the game is that we were too cautious in the first half, just scared to make errors, and obviously under instruction. But after that, I thought we showed we still have a very good side.
Man, I think that's a really good summation. I'd go along with absolutely all of that. I felt, and I think my impression was that both coaches early on were very much about feeling us out, feeling the opposition out, and weren't prepared to take too many risks, and were just not willing to expose themselves defensively at all. And I think, to be perfectly honest with you, the good thing about how we went about it after half time was that we were the ones to actually take the initiative.
Yes.
And start moving the ball. I don't think Fly really had the agates to and I thought McRae actually, and we didn't cover this a lot in on the wrap, but I thought McRae actually made a couple of strange moves. The way he used Dacos was interesting, having him up forward in the third quarter for large parts of the game when he probably could have done with having him in the middle. I thought was an interesting one, and he didn't really do much to try and correct that either, which I thought was a bit odd.
It was strange. It really was strange. I think it was really strange. They got rid of Mychek. They got rid of Cox. They really left themselves without any bloody forwards, mate. They don't really have a very, very good forward structure at the moment. Their defence, even though they didn't have the captain, they played pretty well, their defence. I'll give them that credit. And, of course, we know they've got a good midfield. But having said that, I think they're going to get found out up forward, but they just don't have really. When they're relying on poor Elliott to do it all, and he's just a medium-sized player, they just don't have the talent. They're lacking talent up there.
Yeah, they really have been shown up with losing Mychek in particular, who was a bit of, it wasn't spectacular Mychek, but he certainly could do a job. I've never been a big fan of McStay. I think he's very flaky, and he didn't really do much for him on the weekend. So, I agree with you, mate. They're a little bit sus, and it's going to be interesting to see how they go forward in terms of how they match up forward. Now, look, just going through our thing tonight, we've got Macca's results, which we'll go through in a minute. We're doing the Crows match review already, so we've just swapped them around for a minute, so that's fine.
Yep.
The best and fairest, of course, we had about 10 or 11 people vote in the best and fairest. Of course, a reminder, if you are on our Discord server, after the games, you can vote 3-2-1 for the Crows best and fairest every week. So we had 10, which was good, but we got far many more people in the community than that. So please, if you do remember in the future, chuck in a BNF, and the more people that vote, the better. Of course, there's a bit of Crows and AFL news. There's the Hall of Flame, of course, and we lined up for that, Mac, this week. And then, of course, we'll preview what is shaping to be a massive round 2 game versus the Dogs. So a big show, Mac. But why don't we just crack straight into Macca's weekend results? I'll just put up the round scores. And Macca, it was an interesting week in terms of results. On Thursday night, we had... How did these two teams get Thursday night football? I don't know. But we had Carlton getting up 10-15-75 over Richmond 9-17-71, a margin of 4 points.
Yeah, as I said to you before that we went on, it's disgusting. I mean, we weren't in opening round, South Australia, Western Australia. We weren't on Thursday nights. We weren't on Friday nights. It's just bloody ridiculous. Victorian teams and very ordinary teams. Talking about ordinary teams, well, the Blues squeaked in against last year's second bottom team. And I would say that Vossi's Plakovar would be working overtime. I mean, seriously, if Lynch had kicked straight, he's 2-7 from 9 shots, they would have been done. And one thing the Blues do have, they've got a future gun in Jagger Smith. He's an absolute ripper. Lawler's not bad. He's going to be pretty good for Richmond, but gee, I do like to look at Jagger Smith.
Yep, Cripps and Smith both had 32. Walsh had 30. For Richmond, Jaden Short had 29. Tim Taranto 29. Sam Banks 24. Goal kickers McGovern and McKay 2 each for Carlton. Hewitt 1. For Richmond, Laylor 2. As you said, Tom Lynch 2 goals, 105. And Mansell also 2. Look, if you're a big forward getting paid $1 million a year, Macca, and you can't kick straight, and we saw how valuable having someone kick straight is with Darcy Fogarty in our game, slotting a couple of really key goals from difficult spots. But Tom Lynch should hand back his salary because it cost his team 4 points. Because not only the misses cost them on the scoreboard, but it also dings morale as well. But blokes work hard to get the ball down to him, and then he misses.
Exactly.
And that happens 2 or 3 times, and blokes drop their heads, right?
Well, he got 2 goals from 9 shots, and they were all gettable.
Yeah. Yeah, so, Carlton doing Carlton things. Richmond, I thought, were probably the better team on the night, to be honest, but as we said, couldn't get it done. The next game of the round was Essendon Hawthorn, another blockbuster Friday night game. Again, how does Essendon get on the ticket, for God's sakes? Hawthorn 21-19, 145 to Essendon 13-5, 83, a margin of 62 points, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it is a joke, Essendon being on the Friday night. What a joke. Anyhow, the Hawks too good in all key areas. Look, Gunson might be a bloody pensioner, but he got himself a bag of fire. And he looked bloody good. Watson, he's a nippy little player. He got 4. But the main player, interestingly for the Dons, was Merritt. Yeah, I don't know whether he knows he ran out last. I'm trying to make a point that he's no longer the captain. But he did. There's a player ran out. He waited till he came out 20 seconds after the second last player. And he had 32 disposal play. He must... But he would have had to think to himself, I wish I could have got over there. Look, I could have played for that mob, and I'm playing for this mob.
Too much is being made of the whole Merritt thing, in my opinion.
Oh, what I'm saying is that, he was the captain. He wanted to abandon him, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him for that. He wants to be in a successful team, and I think every player wants to be in a successful team. The fact that he's captain probably is the thing that really caused it to be a little bit on the shitty side, but to his credit, look, if every Essendon player played as well as he did, they would have won the game. So I mean, yeah, he got a lot of booze and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I think he's carried himself pretty well, Merritt, to be honest with you.
Very well, I thought. Very well, thank you.
I think he's a fairly professional sort of a lad, and who was it? Kane Corns talking about him getting his own water bottle and all that sort of shit. I mean, bloody hell. Just a bit ridiculous. I have to say thank you to Radicus in the chat once again, supporting the cast, Macca, with $2. Radicus saying, since there's no Sammys, get Macca a tin of sardines. I don't know how to take that. Mac?
No. My last prize was actually one of those bloody meals that you get delivered, but I never bothered getting them.
Oh, Macca. All right, let's have a look at the next game, which is... Whoops. Find it. Now, this one was the surprise, and I think the Bulldogs... I think most people would have rated the Bulldogs as a bit of a riser this year, but I was extremely impressed with the Giants in round 0. And for the Bulldogs to beat them by 14 goals, Macca, that's a big result. 21 goals, 8, 134 to the Giants, 7, 11, 53.
I thought they were scary, mate. They were absolutely scary. Bontempelli, well, I mean, we know how good he is, but, straight up 33 disposals, 3 goals, and he looks like he's doing it on the bit. The guy's just a freak. Team English, he had a great game in ruck, but Bontempelli, he's supported by Kennedy. He got Liberace. They all had good games, and they've actually brought in a couple of cheapies in defence that have actually both played very, very well. So, but the defence is their actually one possible weakness, but they have improved their defence and their attack as well. Is really, really good. I mean, the big boy up there, Darcy, well, he got 4 goals, but Norton got 5 as well. It was 60 goals he got. They've got 10.
Yeah, Norton got 6. Norton got 6. Darcy got 4. Bont got 3.
Well, there's 10 between those two forwards, so I mean, we're going to have our work cut out. So, they brought in Jakes and Butterick. They were the 2 guys they brought in from other clubs, and that was a very, very smart move because they actually both had really good games, and that was always their weakness. The Dogs, they've got a great middle, they've got a great forwards setup. I think they've improved their back line. I think it's going to be a really, really tough game, this one, coming up.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that later, mate. Don't jump the gun. Just get back in your rocking chair and relax and focus.
I'm rocking.
Bontempelli, how good is he? 33 and 3. Tom Liberatore, 29, I think, is really important to them when he's up and about. Lockie Jakes, 28. For the Giants, Lockie Ash, 31. Finn Callahan, 27. And Toby Green, 26. Callahan also with 2 goals. I think the Bulldogs did a better job of exposing Giants being a little bit lighter on in defence at the moment compared to the previous week.
Yeah, they did.
And, Norton can be a bit flaky, a bit hot and cold, but when he gets off the chain, it can be very damaging. So they certainly took advantage of that situation, and yes, a very good result for the Doggies. The next one, we had Geelong at the Cattery just getting up over Fremantle by 10 points, 16-14 to 14-16. Holmes with 32, Bailey Smith 31, Stewart with 31. And for Fremantle, we had Sarong with 30, Luke Jackson with 27, Neil Rasmus with 21. Goal kickers, Neil kicked 5, Clarkson 3 for Geelong, and Dudley and Bolton and Josh Treacy the main for Freo. I didn't see this game, Mac, but I did see Longmuir's comments afterwards regarding the round 1, the round 0 disadvantage. I won't spend too much time on that this week, but certainly there's a case to be made, isn't there?
I want to support Longmuir 100%. Absolutely 100%. I mean, the Cats, they got up by 10 points against a tiring Freo, but Geelong had that run last week, and that was a difference. And I totally agree with Longmuir. And that was a huge advantage because at the start, Jackson's jumping all over them. Jackson was actually quite outstanding, actually. But, as the game went on, and as Freo started to tire, Holmes and Smith, they shone, and Neil was getting fed. Cameron got 3. They got 5, the big fella. Cameron got 3, and but whereas they couldn't get goals like that early in the piece, where it was just as the game went on, you could just see one team was a little bit fitter, had more run, and the other team was just slowly going downhill. Because just the difference was one was hard and one wasn't. And I actually think if they both played start again. If they both played the week before, I've no doubt Freo would have won the game. But they didn't. They tied, and the Cats ran home. And really, it was in the middle, Holmes and Smith, and feeding the forward. So that sums it up.
Look, I don't disagree with you, Macca, but what I will say is that we were in the same position, and I felt like it played into how we actually played that first half and how we played the last quarter, and I just wonder whether we were smarter about how we managed the situation. Maybe we accounted for the fact that we were going to be a bit underdone. Ran a fairly slow game plan first half to keep the scoring close, and then had that burst in the third to break it open, and then we did tire in the last, but we did hang on. So I don't know. I don't want to go too much further. People have heard us talk to death about round 0, but it was interesting to hear Longmuir's comments. Reggie Miller in the YouTube chat, thank you very much, mate. Another great supporter of the podcast. Has provided a donation that says, Macca looking sharp, love the cast, helps me relax, keep up the good work. The Sunday raps and Tuesday chats are elite. Thank you, Reggie. We don't know whether we deserve the elite status, but we certainly do appreciate the support.
Mate, you grab it when you can get it.
That's what she said. All right, the next cab off the rank was probably, apart from our own result, mate, a very pleasing one, and I know you'll be champing at the bit to talk about this one, so we'll limit the conversation to 3 minutes, please. North Melbourne 17-11, 113 to Port 9-13, 67, a margin of 46. Hang on, Sheasel 31 touch. No, just. I'm doing the games as I want to do them. I'm doing the North game. Okay. Oh my Lord. Harry Sheasel 31, Dylan Stevens 29, Luke Parker 24. For Port it was Rosie with 24, Butters with 23, Drew with 21. George Aldis got 3, and Durden and Whitlock got a couple each for Port, and for North it was Larkey with 4, Trembath with 3, and Zerha with 2, and go.
Well, what I can say is to Josh Carr, welcome to AFL coaching. It's not as easy when you got Kenny there. I just thought Butters and Rosie, they relied on him so heavily. Butters only got the 1 touch in the third quarter. I don't know what happened, but I mean he went berserk in the last quarter trying to make up for it. Yeah, they were okay. Georgiadis, he got 3 goals, but gee, they got some very ordinary efforts from some players, and a lot of their players are those Sandford players, really. I mean, I know Horne-Francis, and we did talk about it before, but 3 firsts for a bloke to get you 12 disposals for the game. I mean, let's be real. That's just not on. And on the other hand, you got Sheasel there, birding his head off, getting about 30 odd. Stevens plays his best game ever. LDU plays really good, and I've got to say, North Melbourne played very, very good football. And the way that game was played, Port were never going to win it. And they've too many average players in there, mate. Too many average players, and I still think that costing those 3 first round draft picks to get hold of the Horne-Francis, who doesn't give the performances to match that, has forced them at times then to resort back to very low draft picks, or picking mid-season draft picks, pre-season draft picks. And I think they've got about 6 to 8 players on their side that are just really Sandford players.
Macca, you and I have both talked about this already. I don't think any other club in the competition wouldn't have done the same thing as Port did to get Horne-Francis. In fact, we threw the kitchen sink at North to get Horne-Francis. I don't think it was a bad recruiting move at all. I just don't think he's producing at the moment. There's no question he's quality, but he's certainly struggling at the moment. I think if you want to talk about Port's drafting and recruiting, the one to talk about is Lukosius. He's the one that they overspent on.
Well, they did, and what they've actually done is they've actually moved on some very good players. When you look at some of the players playing in the other teams, I mean, Hawthorn have got a couple, and well, the one that went to Collingwood, he was Houston. He started. He played really, really well. No, I think they've moved on quality players, and they've ended up burning around first round draft pick for not so good players. And I just think their draft. At one stage they were better at drafting than we were, but by God, they've really gone haywire the last 2 or 3 years, I reckon.
Well, I just don't think you can make that statement about Horne-Francis, because he is a definite star of the competition. He is not playing well. I think you look at some of their other choices, as I said, like Lukosius. They've missed a couple with their first round picks. They've had a bit of a period with their first round picks like we had a few years ago, where they've just missed the mark a bit. And they did so well a few years ago to build that midfield by, in that draft period getting up, But what they haven't done is backfield their position, and I think what we've done better than Port in that regard is made sure that we've backfilled our draft position through clever trades and use of lower picks to be able to make sure that we have at least one meaningful pick each year. And
correct.
We've managed to bring in Rankin and Dawson and these blokes, but still had meaningful picks in the draft. Whereas when Port have done it, they haven't backfilled and given themselves a shot at the draft. What was their position last year? Their first pick last year was like 3rd round, wasn't it? But I mean, that's a silly position to leave yourself in, really.
Particularly when you finish down low. In fact, they didn't take anybody. They didn't take anybody for.
Yeah, so and they're light on in defence. They've been light on in defence for quite some time. I don't think Todd Marshall's the answer down back, and he's built like a paper mache clown. He's always going down. They got Georgiadis up front, but not a huge amount else. And,
he's talented.
Georgiadis is absolutely talented, but they haven't got much support around him. So, interesting times for Josh Carr. They are definitely in a rebuild stage, and as we know with Port Adelaide, the issue with them when they are going in down patches that their crowd numbers drop off substantially, and they haven't got the depth in numbers in membership to support that. So, could we see the Tarps come out again, mate?
You stole my line. You got in first, mate. That was coming next. Bring back the Tarps.
Well, yeah. I think what they'll be able to do, I don't know whether you've got around their gather round offering for this year, but they've obviously tried to come up with something to sell a bit more merch, but I don't reckon they'll sell any of them. So what they could actually do is get all the unsold merch from their gather round Guernsey, stitch them all together and use them as tarps, because that'll be the only use there'll be for them.
You're even more vicious than I am.
All right,
God.
but look, just to round out that one, I actually think North have got a lot of parts in place, Macca.
They've improved, definitely improved,
and they're going to sneak up on a few. They've got a solid midfield, they've got a good forward line, and their defence is starting to line up. And it looks like Clarkson's finally got them, playing some sort of method, and they're not going to be the easy beats that they've been in the previous years. And I think out of the cellar dwellers, West Coast, North, Richmond, etc., I think they are going to be the ones that will start to be far more competitive this season.
Spot on. I think you're spot on there, Pete.
All right. Now, the one that you're whinging about, the next one, is probably the other scary team in the competition at the moment, Sydney, having a very good win over Brisbane's 15-14, 104 to 8-12, 60. So 44 points there to the Swans. We had Rice on 28 touches, McCartan on 27 and Blakey on 25. What does that tell you, Macca? No midfielders in their top disposal winners. Interesting. For Brisbane, Zorko 30, Neil 28 and Darcy Wilmot 24. Goal scorers, Amati with 5, McInerney with 2, Heaney with 2 for Sydney. For Brisbane, Revel 2, Cameron 2 and Rayner 1. Nothing from the big fellas there. An interesting disposal mix with Sydney, Macca. They played a little bit differently against Brisbane this time around.
Yes, but their apple cart's been upset, mate. Gilden, he's going to be out for about 3 months. He's done the shoulder in, and really he is the architect. I mean, if you go back to not this week but last week, he was the architect of feeding the forwards. He is the class player in Sydney, and then he's also got a little bit of an injury as well. So, I think Sydney are a good side, but I think they're going to struggle a bit without. Definitely going to struggle without Gilden. That takes away when you lose your best player. You've got to go. The overall has to go down, and I'm not saying they won't be any good, but what I'm saying is it's whereas I thought they might have been very, very difficult to beat, I still think we might be able to beat them. So that's what I'm really saying. They're going to be more beatable.
Are you going to actually talk about the match?
Okay. They did play against a weakened Brisbane. Brisbane had 3 key players out, and and they basically won the game in the first quarter when they kicked the first 7 goals of the game against that side. And I mean, after that, the game was pretty even, really. Andrews wasn't there, Gardner wasn't there, Bailey wasn't there. Hopefully with us next year. But I think the win was soured by those injuries, and Gilden's a long-term injury. So Sydney, I think Cox is doing a good job with them, no doubt about that. But when you lose some of your key little parts of your team, it always affects it.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting how where Sydney got a lot of their drive from. They're generally a strong midfield team, but it seems to me that they got a lot of drive and a lot of their scoring opportunities off halfback rebounds, and that's a little unusual and perhaps indicative of how the game's being played this season.
McInerney was playing in the middle, and he had a really, really great game. He was probably close to their best player. So, and Gilden was very, very right up there too until he got injured in the last quarter. Yeah, so
I know, but their disposal, the 2 of their top 3 disposal were Blakey and McCartan.
Well, fair comment then, Payne. Give you credit there.
Maybe go back and watch the tape, mate. But you're the one doing these. You're the one doing these weekend results. I don't want to be doing your job for you. That's all.
I'm easy, mate. See what you can do.
Oh, don't worry, mate. People hate the fact that I give you shit on the cast, and I love that they hate it.
But I still sleep well at night, mate.
I know, mate. You're a tough old bugger, and that's what they don't understand. It's just water off a duck's back to you. All right. Melbourne and St Kilda had a decent old game, but St Kilda, I reckon if you're a St Kilda fan, you'd, particularly after watching the Pies come up short against Adelaide, I think you would be particularly concerned about a zip 2 start. Melbourne 18-12, 120, St Kilda 15-17, 107. So 13 points in the end. St Kilda should have won this game, in my opinion, and they should have beaten Collingwood the week before.
Oh, I don't know. Did you watch it at all? And that last quarter?
Yes.
Last quarter, Max Gawn. What an outstanding effort by Max Gawn. He played the whole that bloody last quarter, and I mean he's 34 years of age, And he ran the Conning off his bloody legs, and Conning couldn't keep up with him. And it was finally the difference in the winning of the game. I mean, it's only 13 points, but I just got to take my hat off to Max. I've always had a great admiration of Max as a player, but that was a leader's game. It was a guy that's got real gumption who wants his team to win. I just thought we were really proud of him. I thought that was great effort by him. Van Rooyen, who's threatened so much 2 years ago and disappeared just as quickly last year, came good, and he got half a dozen goals up there. He looked very good. Myercheck, who wasn't good enough for Collingwood, he got 3, and that was they certainly could have done with him, I think. And then the 2 Pickets, they were buzzing around. We know that Cossey's an absolute star, but Latrell's showing he's not going to be. He's going to be a pretty good player too. So I like what I saw about Melbourne. I really did. I can see a future there with Melbourne. It's going to be a bit of a slow boom, but there's definitely a future there. St Kilda have actually put all their eggs into one basket. They've had a real crack at it, and they've lost the 2 games so far. So Tom de Koning, well, he might not be as fit as he should be, perhaps, but he got thrashed by Max, I thought, and. Well, we had the same problem again with Wanganeen Miller. He got tagged, and I don't know whether they used him well enough or whatever. I mean, he's a $2 million man. You want $2 million worth of effort. I mean, and I think he's prepared to give it, but not sure that he's being used as good as he should be. And I know it's hard when you're getting tagged. So you've actually, I always think when you're getting tagged, you just put them back to half back. So and then give them the license to run around. So. Yeah, I think the Saints, they're still the Saints that they were last year, just with a couple of extra players.
I just don't think Ross Lyon knows how to harness an attacking team. I just don't think it's in his DNA, Macca. And you talk about using weapons, and the way he has that team set up, it's not a high-scoring team. I mean, they scored 15 goals in the end, but they are not prone to, I don't know how to explain it. He's just such a dour coach. And a bloke like Nasiah, he'll just tell Nasiah to work through that. But I don't think he's using him properly at all at the moment.
He's not. No. Totally agree with you. I mean, I'm sure that a really clever coach could solve this situation and use him properly. And I think it's a bloody shame just watching it. He is a star, and his stars will always he's always going to be tagged now. That's because of the fact that for the very first round he was tagged. It kept him to an ordinary game. By his standards, I've got to say by his standards, and the same again this week. So, no, any team that didn't tag him now would be stupid.
Yeah, and look, I think you're putting a massive target on the back of a young lad, with the way you've pumped him up and all the rest of it. I know Naz has gone for the big contract last year on the back of some really good performances, but I think the whole thing, from his management to his team to his coach, has been poorly managed. And I think it's actually set that kid up to have a real target on his back over the next 12 to 24 months. And it's going to, no team's going to let him run around. There's just no team that's going to let him run around. And I just feel like they should have got together as a group, his management and and the coaching group at Saints and Lyon, etc., and just thought, all right, how are we going to manage this? How are we going to manage this kid to make sure that we don't burn him out or put him into a bad situation? And I think everyone has tried to be opportunistic about the Wanganeen Miller situation and his rapid rise. Let's not forget it wasn't his first season last year. He had a big improvement step and had a couple of really standout games, but he's still a young player. And I don't think his management have done the right thing by him in terms of his long-term career at the expense of chasing some immediate financial gains. So
Well, that's what they've done. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they've done.
I might be reading too much into it, Macca, but that's the way I see it. I feel like that young kid is set up for a big fall.
Well, put it this way: they've created a situation where he cannot avoid the spotlight. He just can't avoid the spotlight. There's no sneaking under any cover for him. I mean, so, and every coach of the other teams are well aware of it. So, yeah, as you said, they've sort of set him up more for failure than success in some ways.
Correct. And that's where Ross Lyon needs to manage him really well, and I don't think he's doing that at the moment. He's playing Messiah as if he's the answer, and he is a key piece of their puzzle. But they've got more senior players on that list, and those senior players need to stand up, in my opinion, and they're not doing so at the moment. Anyway. So yeah, the Saints zip 2. I'd be worried if I was a Saints fan because they should be 2-0 at them. They should be.
Oh yeah, with the draw they've had, they should be. Yep.
Yeah. All right. The last game of the round, the Battle of the Coasts, and Gold Coast easy 20-11 131 to West Coast 10-12 72. Not really much going on there, so say your piece and we'll move on, Mac.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Suns filled them a bit early, and then it was almost as to say, well, this is all too hard, I just can't be bothered, it's not worth it, and they just coasted to the line for the rest of the game. Petrarca, he's an outstanding player, Petrarca. He's back to his very, very best. He was really, really good. Anderson, very, very good. I've got to say, for West Coast, Harley Reid a little bit overrated. He tries, but I still think he's a little bit overrated. I thought Devin Robertson, who'd been up in Queensland for a long time and not, never proper getting a go, he was given. I think he played very, very good footy for them, and but they're going to be a bottom team again. That's as simple as that. West Coast is going to be bottom.
Yeah, look, I think so, Macca. I can't see any way around it, really. I think I think that's the way it is. A couple of people saying the bot commands in chat aren't working. That might be the case. Busy couple of days at the Boss household, so I'll have a look at it during the week and we'll get those. I've seen the purple one work, but maybe a couple of the others aren't working. All right, so let's have a look at the ladder after round one, Macca, really briefly. It's obviously, it's still one of those skew-if sort of a ladders. Sydney on top with 2 wins along with Gold Coast and the Bulldogs, and then we have North in the 4 for the first time in about 7,436 years. Adelaide, Hawthorn, Melbourne, Collingwood, Geelong, the Giants and Carlton all with 1 win. Richmond, Freo, St Kilda, Brisbane, Port, Essendon and West Coast winless after 1.5 rounds. There you have it, mate. It's not a bad start to the season for us. A couple of teams already under the pump, I would say. St Kilda, as I mentioned. Brisbane, obviously, a slow start. They had a slow start last year. But early days, I wouldn't say there's been a lot of surprises, would you, in how the season's panned out so far?
Well, some might have thought that Port would have done better, and that they would have. I think Port were selected mainly to beat North Melbourne. I actually selected North Melbourne because I just look at Port side, and as I say, it's too many Sandford players in there for my liking. So I think Port Adelaide supporters would have to be absolutely shattered because they would have been thinking this was a win. But Richmond, Essendon. Well, Richmond probably should have won the game because Lynch missing. So no real major surprises. But I think most of the good teams are going to be good teams again, and there's going to be others that improve a little bit and will cause upsets during the year. But nothing really stood out that's going to be an upset. There was no team that said I'm going to be the one this year yet.
Yeah, no, that's probably a fair call. All right, now we flipped the script and did the Crows match review earlier in the cast, but I just want to wind back a little bit because, of course, in our Discord channel this season we are running a best and fairest, and to start the season off, everyone goes in and votes 3-2-1 Macca. I noticed you didn't. The only other podcaster that did was Big Man, and therefore I will have to roast you and put you in the Hall of Fame along with Brownie. But the round one results are in, and I've put the results of the votes on the board. Wayne Miller was voted our best player, Macca. Probably no arguments about that.
He was easy BOG. Easily. I thought that was outstanding. I mean, that's what we know that the talent that he's got. But I think this is the first time I've ever seen him put all of it together at once. It was just brilliant. He was brilliant.
I don't know about first time, but it was certainly
at that level.
Like he had a couple of good seasons before he started doing these and stuff. But I think I think definitely, Macca, it's what we've been hoping for from Wayne for a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, he's had a bad run with injuries over 2 or 3 years as well. So that's probably one of the things that's held him back. But, gee, he was good. He was classy. Very good.
Yeah. And second best, voted by our Discord members, was Josh Worrell.
Can't argue with that. Cannot argue with that. Worrell was outstanding. He did get a bash to the head without anybody getting a penalty. No, Worrell was outstanding, and Worrell's been an outstanding player all last year, and he's just carrying on from there. He's a very good player. Agreed,
and certainly after quarter time, McRae was forced to do something about Josh because 13 touches, I think, up to quarter time was insane. A little bit controversial, I thought, for third, but the crowd has spoken, the majority has spoken, and Riley Thilthorpe just snuck in for third BOG, Mac.
I had Neil Bullen for my third best.
No, you didn't. What you had was a big fat nothing because you didn't put your votes in.
That is true. But if I had to put one...
You had nothing.
So if I had to put one in, I would have made it him. I thought Neil Bullen, that's the best game he's played in our colours.
Well, talk about Riley Thilthorpe because he's the one that got third.
Well, Thilthorpe was very, very good. I mean, he had 15 disposals. He kicked 3 goal 1. He did 1 clearance from the centre, which was absolutely brilliant, acting as a midfielder. The beauty of him is the fact that even if he doesn't mark the ball, they have to concentrate him on so much. It does leave a little bit of scope for Foggs and Walker as well, because Thilthorpe is just such a beast that you just he can take him at the he can get the ball there, get the ball on the ground. He's a star. He really is a star. And look, I thought, he played a very, very good game. He would have been my fourth best, but no argument with the fact that he did play a good game.
I think that's probably fair. I think him and Neil Bullen were probably interchangeable. I thought that the fact that we can now use Riley as a pinch hit midfielder, it must scare the hell out of the other teams because he's just such a big unit and you can't get him off the ball. So he just commands a space, and because he hunts the ball at ground level and because he's so good at ground level, Macca, it's like a massive, immovable force running through the ball, and you just can't push him off. So it's an incredibly valuable asset that we have, and I'm glad that we've decided to move Toby Murray into the mix in terms of the ruck to preserve Riley Thilthorpe. As much as I think Thilthorpe's a good ruckman and would be great around the ground, I think using him this way is probably more effective.
Yep. Agreed.
Other people in the mix, Neil Bullen, as I said, Lockie McAndrew. Mate, how foreign, we talked about this on the wrap, how foreign was it to watch a Crows game? And I think even Josh Worrell today might have come out with a similar statement. We're +7 in centre bounce or centre ball up clearances. How foreign was it to watch a winning ruck in Crows colours?
You have stolen my next line, because I was going to raise him next, because although it's interesting, although the clearances, they were actually even for the game, we won the centre clearances 16-9. We lost the around the ground, the stoppages 13-20, and that's because what the big advantage that McAndrew's got is his height, but it's one thing to be tall. The second thing is to actually put the ball to a teammate, and that's what he did. I love the way he was tapping the ball. I mean, Rob, when Rob gets a tap, it's usually to the opposition.
Well, it's just indiscriminate. We've talked about how O'Brien taps the convenience over and over and over again on this podcast.
Whereas, and you watch, I noticed that just watching very closely, if you watch McAndrew, he does actually twist his wrist while he's up there, because he's planning to flick it to one way or the other way. So there's no arse about it. This is he actually is trying to guide it to a player, and I think Berry in particular was one of the ones that benefited from the most. Actually, he made Berry look good several times, charging through the centre. So look. Just on his muck work alone in the centre, he's worth having in the side. To his credit, I think he had a few possessions as well. Was it about 15 or something like that? 13 or 15? So caught out a little bit around the boundary throw-ins, because that's where the physicality comes into it, but not in a hopeless way. I think he's been a great get, a really great get, and I think I want the club to stay firm on this. I don't want them to weaken about Rob. I can see a situation with a club, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 games, I'll say I better give him a rest, and then Rob gets in, and then it might be hard to get McAndrew back in again. I just stick with the kid. Just stick. I mean, he's not a kid really, but just stick with him.
I don't even think it's a question. I just don't think it's a question. I mean, there's Bickley and all that talking about Riley O'Brien, and even Nick's talking about O'Brien for 2 minutes on AFL 360 on Monday night. It's like we've already moved on. There's no way that we would get the same output from Riley O'Brien under any circumstances than what we would get than what we got from Lockie McAndrew. It's just not it's not the same, because the other difference with Lockie McAndrew, Macca, was the fact that he looks like a footballer.
Yes, very much so.
He actually looks like a footballer, and therefore we actually get stuff out of him. I mean, I'll just throw out quickly McAndrew's stats. He had 13 disposals, 4 kicks, 9 handballs, 27 hit-outs. He absolutely torched Cameron. He also had 5 clearances, 8 contested possessions and 6 uncontested possessions. And he doesn't kick like a giraffe with bloody some sort of... I mean, the only blemish on his game was he dropped that mark in the forward line, but that's just an experience. That's a young player sort of freezing in the moment. But overall... if you can get that sort of let's be honest, that's his first game in Crows colours at AFL level. If you can get that or better from him every week, then that's double, triple the output that we're going to get from O'Brien. The only place that O'Brien might have him is in marking. I think O'Brien, when he's on, is a probably better round the ground mark than McAndrew. But I tell you what, our third quarter dominance was largely driven by our ability to win centre clearance.
Absolutely, thanks.
And that is an advantage that can't be understated. And I think Lockie McAndrew is a fantastic asset for us. And I just don't want to actually hear O'Brien in the conversation until O'Brien can produce similar sort of output, and I don't think he ever will. So,
well, he can't. I mean, he can't. His structure is such that his physical structure is that when they changed the rules, what you can do in the middle and what you can't do, they virtually got O'Brien dropped. There's no doubt about that, because Rob was lucky if he ever got his hand on it in the centre anyhow under the wrestling rule. But even then, it wasn't no plan of getting it to a player. It was just hitting the bloody ball.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, the way McAndrew was able to palm to not only our players but also to the right zones, Macca. He wasn't. He was palming it to space where our midfielders were set up on the side of the contest. So I don't think I can remember a tap in the centre anyway where he put us in a vulnerable situation. I think he's still got work to do around the ground at stoppage and throw-ins, but that's a young ruckman finding his way. But at centre bounce, I felt he was fantastic. And Darcy Cameron's the reigning Collingwood best and fairest player. Probably should have been in the All-Australian squad at least last season. And
he gave him a bath. In the centre of the ground, he gave him an absolute bath.
Well, Cameron had no real impact in the game, and I think that's the best indicator. Cameron was non-effective, and I thought Toby Murray did a very good job backing up McAndrew, and I think we probably took a bit of a risk, and we said this on the wrap on Sunday night. Took a bit of a risk given that we were underdone, having not played in round 0. We took a bit of a risk in playing the 2 ruckman and using that 5th man on the bench as a consequence. But I was so pleased that we did, because I think it's actually the right configuration. It is.
I
think for us, at the moment, as it stands, and things might change, but as it stands at the moment, McAndrew and Murray, because you can chuck Murray up forward as well, so you can chop out Thilthorpe or Tex or Fogg for 5 minutes with Toby going forward as well. I think it gives us some flexibility, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good comments in the chat. I'm just reading some of the comments out there. Even McRae had to acknowledge that McAndrew did get the better of his star ruckman, and then another comment. He's 25, which is the age most ruckmen come on. There was one there which is a sort of it's about a negative factor. They were right what they said. I mean, we've got O'Brien in our leadership group, and you lead by example, and the guy can't get in the side. So this was a very poor appointment. Very poor appointment.
Depends what you want out of your leadership group, mate. We've already talked about all of that, so I don't want to. The last thing we want to do on this show, Macca, is talk about the same thing every week. So on your little list, you've got your paper in front of you. Just cross that one off. We've talked about it. Line through that one.
No, I didn't have it on my list. I just noticed it in the chat. Then I just thought it's a point nobody's talked about, because maybe we have to trade him.
We talked about it ad infinitum during the course of the pre-season, mate, about 7 times. Anyway, let's move on. All right. So as I said, obviously the best and fairest being round 1. The other couple of players that were in there, Tex got a vote. That was actually me. Because I thought that Tex had some really key moments when it mattered, when the game was there to be won or saved. I thought Tex had a very clean game. He was the beneficiary of a mismatch because of their small defence, but I thought he took advantage of that very well, and the way he presented up the ground, I think, was instrumental in not only us getting in front, but also staying in front in the last.
Well, it's interesting. He only kicked 2 points himself, but he had 19 disposals for me. 19 disposals. And his influence on the forward line was huge. So what they I think they really concentrate, and this is the beauty of Thilthorpe. They have to concentrate on Thilthorpe. And it does give Fogarty and Walker an opportunity. Though Fogarty was fairly tightly held, but Walker definitely got off the chain, and he made some very nice spaces at times, Walker did. And, I really liked his game. If he can play like that every week, he's in the side every week, no rests. I mean, he was very good.
It's what you want from Tex. He had 5 inside 50s, 2 goal assists, 10 contested possessions, Macca, 11 kicks, 8 handballs. I just look. There's plenty of other. PJ in the chat says rightly that Rash was a bit stiff not to get a vote. I agree. Rash had a really good game. I just thought blokes like McAndrew and, in my opinion, Tex anyway, Braden Cook was another one that we'll talk about in a second. Got votes, probably just shaded. And, mate, we've been saying for a long time on Braden Cook, what we need is 20 posies a week out of him. We got 19 out of him on the weekend, and wasn't he good?
Well, now I have to make an apology to him here. When the coach said that he wanted to see Cook playing a Zorko type of role, and I thought that's a huge analogy to make for a guy that regularly can't get in the side. So, but I have to say this. I was surprised how well Cook played. I mean, he played really, really well. He's got skill, he's got brains, he used the ball well. I loved his game. And actually, I thought maybe the coach talking like this about the belief in him to become something like that is actually getting the bloke to believe in himself and perform it. I think maybe he's just always felt like an also-ran or something like that, but he didn't play like an also-ran. He played like a good player.
I just think what we saw was a little bit of maturity, Macca. I don't feel like he played a Zorko role as such, because he was playing like a pure wing. And,
not the same role, no.
And look. Yeah, look, we've always known that Braden Cook's had this in him. There's no doubt about it, as far as I'm concerned. He's had it in him. But again, we're talking about a young player, aren't we? So it was great to see him take the bit between the teeth. And some of his deft touches are fantastic. His long goal was fantastic. And, I think the wing was probably an area, I think, that was a bit contentious pre-season. We saw a lot of Chase Jones there, and talked about various people in there during the course of the pre-season. I think Cumming and Cook on the wings is a pretty good answer, don't you?
I do. Cook is the same bloke that I think it was last year had one game that was either 1 possession or 2 possessions or something like that. So I think it's a lot of it has to be with Cook. He has to be self-belief, because what he showed, he's got enormous skill and talent. So if he can produce that every week and just grow on that, he could become a very good player for us. I really did like what he did.
Well, you got to understand too where Cookie's come from. He was part of that super South Adelaide junior team that had Horn Francis and Arlo Draper and Matty Roberts and these blokes. He was part of that squad coming through, and Horn Francis, and he was a ring-in from volleyball. He was just one of their mates that came in and played a bit of footy. He was a volleyballer. I heard from a couple of sources, and I think I said it back at the time when we were covering that draft, I heard that a lot of even his peers rated him as, like, in terms of skill and natural ability, as an amazing young player. I do remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. But the caveat on Braden has always been that he's come from a long way back, and I think as a consequence, I think you can't have him on the same trajectory as a Horn Francis or a Matty Roberts or one of these blokes, because he hasn't had the same amount of footy in his legs. He hasn't had the same amount of elite training at junior level, etc., etc. So footy hasn't been his life as a kid growing up as it has for most of the other kids coming through. PJ says he was a second rounder. It was a very late second rounder, and no, he wasn't on anyone else's radar. He wasn't getting picked up by anyone else.
Well, he was good. I think he's going to prove to be a very good get, because he's always had the skills. It's just a matter of the belief, and I think a lot of self-belief comes into it, and fitness and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, if he can produce that every week, I'll be very happy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm really pleased with his progress. I'm really pleased that they persisted with him, and but he obviously it's a outcome focused league, and he had to start producing. And 19 to 20 touches is exactly what we needed from him, and that's exactly what we got on the weekend. So good stuff.
Yep.
All right, so that's that should give you an idea of how best and fairest is working. So everyone who's watching and listening in our Discord community, if you can make sure you get your votes in next week, it's very simple. You just type in /vote and in the chat and follow your nose. It gives you drop downs to select your players for 3, 2, and 1, and that way your vote is counted. Had a bit of a bug first up. A lot of the things that we've implemented this year, Macca, I had to wait until we actually had live games going before I could test them. So there has been a couple of bugs, but the beauty is that I've been able to sort them out on the fly. So next week that should be running quite smoothly. All right, before we go any further, I think it might be time for the Hall of Flame, mate. What do you reckon?
Let's burn somebody.
Let's burn somebody. I will clear the decks, and we will just get ourselves set up for the Hall of Fame, of course. There it is. And, mate, there's a few to choose from. But who have you gone with first up?
Well, there's always a heap of candidates, but I finally settled on Eddie Maguire. Now, I heard him on 5AA rewriting history, right? The Pendlebury incident. I mean, seriously, he said that it wasn't even a reportable incident. He said it was just a normal bump. Now, I got Mrs. Macca out. I was that enraged about it, and showed her frame by frame Pendlebury's arm just smashing into Worrell's head. And I said, "Does that look like a bump to you?" And she said, "I think that's reportable." I said, "Well, he was." And Eddie was saying that it was a legal bump, and just go and watch the video. Well, I did watch it, Eddie. You lied. You absolutely lied. You got it half right. It was a bump, but it wasn't legal. It was a clear hit to the head. Now, I am not a person who supports he's been a good boy view. Because what would have happened if Worrell had been hurt to the point that he couldn't play next week? Now, to me, you either you do the crime, you do the time. I mean, Reagan did 4 games for saying a word, just a word. I mean, to me, a hit in the head's worse than a bloody word. And no, I'm not against Pendlebury. I don't, and he got off, and he's not going to do it. So be it. But Eddie, you just lied. That was just, you can't rewrite history. It is what it is, and I know you stick up for your people, but when you're telling a lie, it's still a lie.
I seem to recall Rory Sloane getting done for an accidental something or other in a marking contest and getting a week or getting a suspension back then. Now, if you want to talk good blokes over a career, Rory Sloane has always comported himself particularly well on the field. You know, no dirty play, no behind the scenes stuff, just a see ball, get ball type. Where was the defence of Rory Sloane in the media on the good bloke defence when he it was when Brett Ebert, didn't he have a clash with Brett Ebert because
Brad Ebert?
Yeah, Brad Ebert, that's right. Ebert bled at the sight of any sort of contact.
He did actually.
And the contact was accidental, and Slaney got away. I am 100% behind you with the Eddie Maguire flame, but he certainly had some mates. Like on the Sunday show, they're talking about the good bloke defence, and I'm thinking, what do you mean? What? Since when has the good bloke defence been a thing?
It's just not right. It's just not right. And as I said, what if he knocked Worrell out? Because, I mean, if you play the video slowly and you watch it frame by frame, you can see all the Pendlebury's weight going straight into Worrell's head. And Worrell's head flies away at 100 mile an hour because he's been bashed. And it's incredible. He must have a very tough head, not to get knocked out. But if he, just say he'd been KO'd and he's going to miss games, are they still going to get the same argument? The good guy defence and no action against him. I just think it's so wrong. I'm so angry about it, Feed. I'm just getting tongue-tied.
Oh yeah. Munja in the chat makes me laugh. He says Worrell gets 2 shots at the free throw line going by Pendlebury's basketball background. Did you know that Pendlebury had a basketball background, Macca? It's news to me.
No, I hadn't heard that. No. Well,
look, and Robsy in the chat too says that Maguire accuses Worrell of staying down. If ever you want an illogical statement, that's it, on the basis of trying to support your own player. Worrell is not the type of player who would ever stay down ever for anything, and the fact that he was down for a couple of minutes and at one stage looked like he was actually in a bit of strife says more about the hit from Pendlebury than it does about Worrell. And for Maguire to say that just shows how blindly parochial he is, and that's fine. He's a Collingwood man. He's allowed to be parochial, but the problem with Eddie Maguire is that his words carry weight. And that's the problem. He's not just a random commentator. He's got influence at AFL House. He can influence decisions, and as a consequence, we need to take what Maguire says more seriously because he can actually affect change. And invoking the good bloke defence, which I think we've seen it previously with blokes like Trent Cotchin getting to play a grand final and winning a frickin' Brownlow because of the good bloke defence. I mean, I've not seen anything in the AFL rules, and there's not been a list produced. So maybe now we need to produce a list of who actually are the good blokes, because they should wear a yellow hat on the ground because they get a free hit apparently.
It is ridiculous, absolutely absurd.
If you're going to go to the trade table, you probably want to pick up one of these good blokes because then you can just send him around sniping. He gets one snipe, so you could recruit a guy like Pendlebury, put a yellow hat on him, and then go and get him to belt Bontempelli or something. And the interesting thing about that is that Bontempelli is also a good bloke. So they could actually have a fight in the middle of the ground, Pendlebury and Bontempelli, like a UFC-style fight in the centre square, and they'll both get off because they're both good blokes. How ridiculous.
It is farcical. But I really was very, very angry when I heard Eddie on 5AA, and I thought they let him off pretty lightly, and because you watch the video and anybody who hasn't seen it, just go and have a look at it. Worrell gets a mighty blow to the head. He must have a very tough head because, most people would have got knocked out from it.
Anyway, all right. So that's Maguire. Good one this week, Macca. I commend you on your selection. Well done. I got flamed a bit last week for flaming your flame, so we'll just keep the flames out of it.
I think I understood what you said.
All right, my flame is for a similar reason, and that's David King. I got to say at the outset, I'm not anti David King as some people are. Oh, there you go, the flame is working. Good stuff. Thank you, whoever did that. I don't mind a bit of King. He can get a bit carried away with himself at times, but I like his analytical approach. Whether I agree with it or not, I like his analytical approach. But his bleeding after the game, and I don't know whether it was because he had a producer in his ear going, "You're the one that's got to say this." But his bleeding after the game about that 50-metre penalty for not standing the mark. And basically setting the narrative that it was, costly and all the rest of it. And to the credit of, I think it might have been the Sunday Footy Show, they actually highlighted the players that were in the zone when Tex took that mark and they all run out. And who was it? Nathan Buckley on the couch last night was saying exactly what I thought, and I'm not a huge fan of the stand rule by any means, don't get me wrong, but he was saying the exact right thing, which is that the reason that the whole purpose of that rule is to make sure that the defending team are not advantaged by having an extra player to block up holes by having a bloke run away from the mark. So you have to have a person on the mark to it's not a penalty as such, but it's making sure that the opposition, and he said quite rightly that it's very hard to set up a defence when you've got that bloke standing. So it doesn't matter whether you like the rule or not. The fact is the rule was perfectly adjudicated, and they did it a couple of times, Collingwood. And interestingly, and also Buckley said this as well, Collingwood have been one of the best in previous years at getting them and Richmond, probably the two best, of getting blokes previously to run off the mark real quick, so they get called that outside five and often don't have a player on the mark. Now they're forced to have a player on the mark, and the only thing that was wrong in that whole instance was Collingwood haven't adapted. And for David King to go out and bleat about it and say, it's no good and all the rest of it, that's a bloody rule. It's a bloody rule.
Okay.
And to put that up as a narrative at the end of the game really pissed me off, because it undermined the fact that we'd beaten a nemesis team at the G for the first time. Well, first time we won at the G since 2014. Coming off a bad end to last season, etc. And to make that part of the narrative really pissed me off, and I was annoyed about that from Kingy. I thought he's better than that.
I agree 100%, Fiend. I like your flame, because I think he deserves it. And I don't really mind him overall as a bloke, but on this particular issue, he was absolutely absurd. He was stupid. He was idiotic. He wasn't making sense. It was all really as if Collingwood should be given advantages that other teams shouldn't. They should ban the bloody rule because it happened to Collingwood. Throw him into the flames. And he goes.
Yeah. I also one thing that I do agree with, but I think it's too late to implement this year. But I've thought this for a while. I think there's room, and Macca, I'll be interested in your opinion on this. I think there's room for both a 25 and a 50-metre penalty in AFL, and I think for let's call them administrative errors like not standing the mark, I think a 25-metre penalty would be sufficient, as long as they don't allow the bloke who didn't stand on the mark to be the bloke running back, because that's like a pseudo cover. He should get right out of it, and someone down the field should be standing on that 25. I think that's probably sufficient. The 50-metre at times, and look, I don't think yes, Tech's got a 50-metre, but they still let Fogarty run free into the forward line and get behind his defender, and Tex was good enough to spot him up, and Fogarty was good enough to kick the goal. So I don't think it was a be-all and end-all. But I think there have been times when a 50-metre penalty for an administrative error, a procedural error, I guess you'd say, is quite harsh and has quite a big difference. Makes quite a big difference.
I think, basically, if it's a physical thing where somebody's done something bad physically, I'm not against a 50-metre penalty.
Correct, yes.
Or if it's abuse back to an umpire or something like that, 50 metres. But in general, I think a 25-metre penalty is, for a lot of the things, like one we're talking about now, for example, there's a heap of them that you could probably lump into the 25-metre category and probably be much, much fairer. But the 50 metres should be used basically like physical acts. I think that's where it should definitely be used, and perhaps abuse to the umpire, stuff like that. But they throw the 50s around like confetti at times, and it's just, look, the ones against Collingwood, as the rules stand, they were there. So David King was just making an idiot of himself. But if he wanted to talk about changing the rules to 25 and 50, and it was too big a penalty or something like that, then we might have listened to him and thought, well, yes or no, whichever way you look at it. But I thought he made a fool of himself, so yeah, he deserves to be burnt.
Yeah. Now, just before we finish this segment, it occurred to me on the weekend that we probably should balance this, and maybe we'll do this going forward, Macca. We probably should balance this segment with some sort of bouquet segment. But in the absence of anything formal, I wanted to give a shout out to Jess Webster, who called the Port North game. What an absolute breath of fresh air she was. I don't know whether you listened to watch that game on Fox or KO or whatever, but
I did.
Jess Webster has immediately elevated herself to probably my second or third favourite commentator. She was clear. She wasn't sensationalistic. She was concise and doing a play-by-play. I know she's done it on radio for a little while, a couple of years on Triple M, I think. But she's got a good tone to her voice. She's clear. I don't want to make any statements about Kelly Underwood, because you say whatever you like about Kelly Underwood, she blazed the trail for someone like Jess Webster. So, let's just leave those alone. We're talking about Jess. Well, I don't care, Macca. We're talking about Jess Webster, right? Yep. So, put your big boy pants on for a minute.
Okay.
And I think it was A, fantastic of Fox Footy to put her on, and B, she did not let them down.
Actually, look, she seriously tried to get back. No, she was excellent, actually. I really did like her job. And I think, like you said, she's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. And, well, and this isn't being sexist, but I would say this. And this is me being a male, so apologies to the I think there might be 3 or 4 women who watch this. But this is me from a male perspective, but I mean it in exactly the right way. I didn't notice that Jess was a woman in her commentary. If you understand what I mean. I didn't. No, it didn't make any difference. There was no gender. It was like, I can't. Like, this is different because it's a woman commentating. It didn't detract at all from the commentary or anything like that by the fact that Jess was female. It was just the quality of her commentary and her delivery that added to the coverage. And I'm probably not expressing that right, but I hope people understand what I'm talking about.
No, I actually do understand what you're talking about, and then there's other examples of women like that, like when they have the Melbourne Cup, and that lass comes out from England every time, and she's so bloody good. She just raises, she elevates the whole panel. She's so that bloody good. She's a level above them all. And in the cricket, there's a woman also who I can't remember her name, but she's another one that elevates the panel every time she comes onto it. So
Isa Gua in the cricket is another example where she could be male, female, or a turtle for all I care. She just adds to the commentary.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, and I understand exactly what you're saying about this young lass. That it's not because they're a woman. It's just because they're bloody good. They just go to they take it to another level.
Yeah. Alyssa Healy's another one. So, I think there's I'm conscious that I'm mansplaining how I feel, and apologies to the 9 females that listen. But I think there's a difference between having a woman on because of a need to have a woman on, and a woman on because she's like good enough to be on there and adds value. And I think Jess now joins the likes of Isa Gua and these ladies who really add value. Alyssa Healy, those people that really add value to the commentary. And just while we're on that, Mel, what's her name? Mel McFarlane?
Yep.
I wanted to, is it Mel McFarlane?
McLaughlin,
that's it. I wanted just to give a shout out to her. The poor Mel is currently struggling with lung cancer, which is terrible. And there's been history of that, and I think she lost her sister from lung cancer. So all the best to Mel, because she was another one. I think she was one of the OGs as well, where she actually earned her stripes as a commentator, irrespective of gender. So let's hope she gets well.
No, all the best. I really do wish her all the best.
All right, that's the Hall of Flame. Good stuff. Now, we've probably covered a little bit of the Hall of AFL news, Macca, in our Hall of Flame, but one good piece of news that did come up since, I think this came up since last week, or was it already a thing? Jared Ruffhead. Did we talk about Jared Ruffhead last week?
No, we haven't, but I want to make a point about that too. I mentioned a certain man that hadn't been on the bloody radio or TV for a long time. He must have heard me, mate, because he came out and he announced about Ruffy going to take on the job looking after as list manager. So, no, I was very good to see Tim Silvers come out of the dark, and I think I flushed him out, mate.
I'm surprised you knew who you were looking at.
I had a guess.
Well, instead of using it as an opportunity to pump up your own tyres, why don't you talk about the actual appointment?
I think it's a good appointment, and if you read all the details that they did, not just in their announcement, but also what other people have written about that appointment, I think we've probably done very, very well. Apparently, Ruffy he studied the way drafting's done in other sports, and I think some of the American way of doing things in basketball and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, apparently, he's a real student of it, and people think that we've done extremely well in getting him. They reckon he's the up and coming man in this area, and I hope he's right. I hope that's right, because it makes you or breaks you, this particular area. If you get this right, you end up with a good team. If you make errors, you ruin your whole future. So you've got to have the right bloke coming in, and I do like the way everybody's talking about Ruffy, and it does appear that most people think we've got the right bloke. So I'm hopeful and pleased, and he's certainly got my backing until he proves otherwise.
Well, I think it's like he was instrumental in a couple of recruitments at Hawthorn. I don't know enough about his work to have a considered opinion, but from all reports and from the responses and reactions from blokes like Sam Mitchell, etc., he's a good operator and highly sought after. And I think, you're absolutely right. Your list build and your list management can make or break you. And I think I think by all reports we also put bids in to the Geelong list manager and one other that I can't remember right now, but I think it's a good get, and I think he'll be very good, and hopefully the first thing he does is looks at the two contracts of O'Brien and Laird and go, not on my watch, and rejigs them.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good thing about getting him now, he's got a whole season to get himself installed, and he's got time to look around. Apparently, he goes to a lot of places himself physically and checks things out. It's a good time to appoint him because he's got time on his side. He'll look at what we've got. He'll kill the games of what we've got in reserve, what's coming up, what's not coming up, the areas of weakness that are going to appear. Because apparently this is the way he analyses it all. So, I think it's a perfect timing. He appears to be the perfect bloke with the right attitude towards it all. So, at this stage, it'll be very interesting to see how he applies that. Because there's a lot of things.
PJ in the chat going, he goes to a lot of places. What the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? I go to a lot of places.
No, if he hears if he hears a rumour there's a good player somewhere that he goes and checks it out. That's what I'm saying. He actually goes and checks it out.
He might be the first ever list manager to do that.
Well, there's a lot of list managers don't do it enough.
No, because they've got people like recruiting managers and scouts to do it. Look, a couple of good comments in the chat. Consuelo says it will be important during the upcoming Tassie Cluster F, which it will be draft and trading wise over the next couple of years as Tassie comes in and takes a whole lot of concessions. So, yes, Roughhead will have a very, very important role to play there. Obviously, we've got a bid in to Zach Bailey, which is reported to be, what was it, Macca? It's 10 million, I think.
Yeah. That's why I said 10 over 7, but I think that works out around about
10 over 6.
Was it 10 over 6? That's more like it, yeah. That's more like it. Because it works out about 1.667 666 recurring type thing per year.
Yeah.
So call it 1.7. And I think that's pretty high. It's pretty high. But the point is
that
it's
not 1.7. It's 1.4.
No, it depends. It depends whether you're talking 6 years or 7 years, Fane. 1.4 is 7 years. If it's 6 years, it's 1.666.
Okay.
But the point I'm making, and as the salary grows, it becomes not. Apparently, it's 7, so it becomes 1.4. So,
well, most people are saying 6 in the chat.
I just read a 7. That's why I started working.
Yeah, I know, but you missed about 4 6s. Anyway, look, whatever it is, it's the opening stanza. You don't put in your best bid first, so there'll be some movement there. It probably will. It probably will come up. It doesn't need picks because he's a free agent, obviously. So no dramas there. So there's a Bailey thing. There's a Tassie thing to navigate. Someone rightly in the chat put in too that by all reports the Laird extension was to free up some cap space to make room for Bailey. I would suggest that not re-signing Laird would have had a similar effect, but whatever.
That's true. Logically, that's correct.
But anyway, let's not go down that road too much. So, so good appointment by us. Not a lot else going on in AFL land. Of course, we've covered the tribunal, Macca. So, not a huge amount to talk about there. We've already gone over that one. We won't go through it again. Anything else that you'd want to raise, mate?
Well, Rankin coming in. What do we do?
That's not news. That's part of the preview that we'll get to in a minute, mate.
Yeah, I know. I thought you'd run out of news, so...
No. Well, I just asked you if you had any other news that you want to talk about.
No, I don't, mate. No, I'm done.
I hope people in the chat and watching this, because they do get on me for bloody railing you sometimes. But I hope
you do.
But I hope they feel my pain when it's trying to keep you on the tracks.
In fairness to you, I do wander a little bit, Thane.
Well, Lord.
Just a little. I enjoy myself, and I want the people out there to enjoy themselves. And if I can say,
one of the things that endears you, everyone, mate. It's all good. All right, look, let's move forward then and talk about the upcoming game, which is obviously versus the Bulldogs on Friday night. Finally, a decent game on Friday night footy.
It will be.
And of course, we've got Ranks coming back in. Who comes out is going to be an interesting one. We'll talk about that in a second. Macca, what's your thoughts?
You mean in terms of the game or in terms of ranking?
The game in general.
Well, I just think this, and I might be talking out of my backside, but I really think this is probably our biggest challenge for the year. Because I do
game, for God's sake.
Yes, but I think I looked at all the teams, and the two teams that Brisbane's always a challenge. That Brisbane's always a challenge, and Gold Coast have improved dramatically, and they're going to be a challenge. But I watched the Bulldogs, and they're nearly the complete team. They're not just quite, but they're nearly the complete team. And I really like the way that they've got that strength in the midfield. I mean, the strength is really, really, really strong. I'd love to have their midfield. They've got very good forwards, and they've improved their back line. It's not, it's not the best back line, but it's still a good back line. So this is just a real acid test, I reckon. Now we've got the advantage we're playing at home, and we have a great record against them here. But I still think it is a great test. If we get through this one and we win this one, I'm very confident about our season. If we don't get through it, well, it's not the end of the world, but I'd really like to win it, because if we can beat this mob with the midfield they've got an excellent ruckman. As I say, they've got a bloody good forward line, and that's going to test us. I think it's a tough test. I'm thinking we can do it, but it's going to be tough.
Well, I've just put up the stats from the last time we played them, and which was round 16 last year, 18 last year, where we got up by 11 points, and we out-tackled them. We definitely outmarked them, 105 marks to 88, so we had definite aerial dominance the last time we played them. Our kick-to-handball ratio was slightly more skewed towards kicks than theirs. They were trying to handball, we kicked more. They touched us up in clearances by about 8. Inside 50s were pretty similar. And the reason why I chucked up last year's stats is simply because I don't think either team has made too many structural changes. I think both teams, the improvement that we're seeing in both teams this year so far has been just an evolution, and certain players maturing, getting more games under their belt, etc. So I think it's going to be quite a similar type of game.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you, Ben, because it's just that both sides, you've got younger players that are maturing, and I mean, to me, the big worry is Darcy at full forward. I mean, Butch he's a good negative player, but gee, Darcy is a very complete player, and he attracts so much attention. That means Norton gets off the chain a little bit. So if I'm because I've got such a good midfield, it does worry me a little bit there. Look, if we can control those guys to a reasonable degree, we will win the game. But because our forward line is also very, very good. That's our number one bow. And if our boys are, if we can just give them enough opportunities, and I think our boys can kick a winning score. But I do see this as a genuine challenge match.
Yeah, last time we played them, Thilthorpe kicked 6, Darcy kicked 2. Thilthorpe had 9 marks to 5, 13 kicks to 9. It seems to me that Riley certainly was a more valuable player last time than Sam was. But it'll be a very interesting matchup. They're obviously not matched together, but to see which one of those two boys has more influence on the game.
Well, yeah, and it also depends how much opportunity each one gets as well, because they have that great midfield. But if we can sort of just even sort of break even in the midfield, if we can actually stop it from dominating, then I think we can win the game. But it's once you get Bontempelli just running rampant, and the other boys just chipping in, it makes it very, very hard. The Bont in particular.
Look. I think the biggest challenge facing anyone in our side this week is going to be Lockie McAndrew. I think for him to back up against probably the informed ruckman in the comp at the moment in Tim English, I think is going to be a big test for him. English was has been quite influential, not only in the centre but also around the ground. And I think this will be another learning experience from Lockie. And I don't expect Lockie to beat Tim. But I expect, I've noticed from McAndrew that he's a quick study, and we saw that in the trial game against Freo. And I would hope that if English gets on top of him early, that McAndrew has the ability to find ways to at least nullify him as the game wears on.
Yeah, well, yes, I've got English in my fantasy team, and I bet so I've watched him very closely, and he's in it's outstanding form at the moment. He's actually he's an interesting player because I thought towards the end of last year he looked a little bit lazy. He wasn't working both ways very hard, but at the moment he's pretty refreshed at the moment, and he is working hard both ways. And his ruck work is very, very good. So the one thing McAndrew has got, he's got a few inches on him. So if he could at least give us a competitive advantage, or perhaps at least a neutral situation in centre bounces, so that they don't burst through with Bontempelli charging and all that sort of stuff. Well, that will have a big bearing on the game. I do expect that English will get him a little bit around the boundaries, but boundary throws and that sort of stuff. But that's up to the on-ballers there to work hard to neutralise that. But that centre bounce, if we could win that centre bounce to a reasonable degree, then that will go a long way towards us winning. Somebody says how many inches? I reckon he'd be taller than English.
It's not what they were getting at. I'm just putting up a comparison from the last game between probably each team's most important player, Rankin for us and Bontempelli for them. Rank's kick to goal had 4 tackles, 6 marks, 14 kicks, 4 clearances and 6 inside 50s, which isn't a bad game. Bontempelli, 12 tackles, 8 marks, 17 kicks, 20 handballs, 8 clearances, 10 inside 50s. That's a game.
Okay. That certainly is. Can't argue with that.
Now, we saw Nix and a few other players come out post-Collingwood game and talk about Nick Dacos and the fact that we were pretty much resigned to the fact that Dacos was going to get 30 plus, and it was all about the impact that those possessions had. Can we afford to take the same approach with Bontempelli, Macca?
I don't know that you can, actually, because Dacos at least is not a giant of a player. Bontempelli's got that size on him as well, so it's with Dacos you can sort of corner him a little bit, but Bontempelli's got that strength and that height. If he's on fire, he's just virtually unstoppable. But so it's just. We've just got to work very, very hard to make it hard for Bont to get really started. When Bont starts, well, he usually has a great game. So I'd like to see him make it hard for him to get the ball early. That's just going to be through sheer contest.
Well, I think the head-to-head is going to be Dawson. My personal view is that whether by design or just because Geordie takes it on himself, I think Jordan's going to be the one to be responsible for Bontempelli. I think he's got the size, I think he's got the chops in the air, and I think he can hurt Bontempelli going the other way, which makes Bontempelli a little bit more accountable. I don't think that he will start on him I don't think he will start on him if Bontempelli plays up forward, but I think during the course of the game Dawson will have that role. And if I look at the comparison, last game Dawson had 2 goals, 8 tackles, 4 marks, 16 kicks, 11 handballs, so he had 27 touches himself, along with 6 clearances and 7 inside 50s max. So I think, and I would, if I were the coach, if I was Matty Nix, I would just put them head to head. I think they're very well matched, and I think if we can get Bontempelli out of his comfort zone by Dawson going forward at times, Then it puts it to Beveridge, do I make Bontempelli follow Dawson around, or do I have, a drop-off and a pick-up sort of handover situation? But I think us using Geordie the same as the Bulldogs use Bontempelli will give them something to think about and make us more difficult to play against.
Look at that. I think that was beautifully put, Thane. I could not have put it better. And I think you're 100% right. He is the right man to go with Bontempelli, and he's probably the only one that can go with Bontempelli. And he did well against them last time. So I mean, I think every word you said is spot on there, and he has to be the man. And as you say, hopefully trying to make Bontempelli a bit accountable. So you got that match up spot on, I reckon.
Yeah. The other big question, I think, is who comes in for ranks.
Big one.
Because we didn't have a real weak link in that centre position. I mean, you could argue up forward, Pedley didn't have a huge amount of the ball. Keys didn't have a huge amount of the ball, although he kicked nice goal. Peds also kicked nice goal. But I don't think you can judge small forwards on their disposal count and all the rest of it. And I felt like Pedler in particular was always a bit of a threat, and Keys certainly worked himself into the game in the second half. So neither of them played badly. JP and and Saligo are probably the other two possibilities. Saligo, you would imagine, is still a bit underdone, only played 60% game time. And I just wonder, Macca, whether he is the one, because whilst we got away with playing a big man in the fifth interchange spot last week, the Bulldogs are a much harder running side, and I don't think we can afford to carry the fourth player on the bench as a runner who only plays 60% game time.
Correct, I agree. Well, I listed 4 players I thought could have to come out of one of these, I think. I mean, I see in the chat some people mentioned Ben Keys. I can't see that happening. Pedler, he had 7 disposals, 3 marks, 2 tackles, kicked 1 goal, 2. We got Saligo, had 14 disposals, 6 tackles, kicked a goal. Peatling had 20 disposals, I thought was fairly good. Bond, you have a reshuffle, but I'm not saying this, but I'm talking about candidates. He had 13 disposals, 4 marks, and 1 tackle. I think it's one of those 4 players. I don't think it'll be Bond, because there's a structure in the back lines there. So it comes back to, we're looking at Pedler, Saligo, Peatling. Now, I think Peatling had 20 disposals, so I don't think it's Peatling. So it comes back to, we're narrowing it down to, in my opinion, Pedler or Saligo. And that's what I think.
Well, and what's your answer?
I'm thinking, well, some of those in the chat, they'll say they don't agree with me about Peatling. Okay, it's going to be...
you watch the chat too much, mate. I'm asking you for your opinion.
Yeah, well, I'm confused. I have varying thoughts depending on which time I think about it. But
is that because you don't remember the last time you think about it, so it's always a new thought? Or?
No. Because I think Saligo only had 14 disposals, which was well down on the so.
But it's 60% game time, Macca. He can't get disposals if he's not on the ground.
But there was a reason why he only had the 60%, because he wasn't 100% spot on.
Or maybe it was because they didn't put him on. That's the reason he only had 60%. Because they didn't put him on.
They thought he was slightly underdone, Fleet. So,
we know he was underdone. We've been following his pre-season. We know he was underdone. That's not. I was actually a little surprised that they picked him under the circumstances.
Yeah. Well, if it was me, I'd probably Pedler. I'd probably, and I know that people won't necessarily agree with that, but Pedler would be my choice. My second choice would be probably Peatling.
So you'd leave Saligo in?
I would, yes.
Even though he's underdone?
Well, he'll be better for the run last week.
Well, he might be. Look, it's a very tough one. I don't think that they'll drop Pedler because I think that they'd like the presence that Pedler brings up forward, and he could have had 2 or 3 goals on the weekend. So out of 7 or 8 or 9 touches or whatever he had, that's not a bad return. Playing the small forward or the half forward role can be a bit of a graveyard, as we know, and you've got to take your opportunities. And when you look at the way the ball came in, Mac, and this is something that I wanted to address with you as well, particularly in that third quarter when we started getting our ball movement right, we were playing our forwards very deep and leaving that 30 to 40 metre mark zone very open for blokes to lead into. There wasn't a lot of crumbs there because we weren't bombing the ball in high. It was fantastic the way we were like, it was so refreshing to see us actually move the ball into the forward lines properly, and doesn't make a difference when you're entering from 70 metres out. Sorry, I've just got to plug my camera in. From 70 metres out and hitting up a target rather than kicking from 90 metres out and just bombing it to 45 degrees.
Oh, it makes the game look easy. I mean, they do it like that. But,
But
the problem is, there's none of these players I really want to drop because I think, I say Pedler, but, Pedler did some good things under very hard conditions at times. So I was just going to have to leave it there because I'll get it wrong with you.
Well, no, I mean, it doesn't. I don't think there's right or wrong, and this is the point. I agree with you. It's my personal opinion. I would keep Pedler in. I would probably, and it's a fantastic problem to have, but I would probably lean towards Saligo only because I think that his fitness is still in question, and they might decide that he would be better off running a full game in the twos. And given that the reason why I lean towards Saligo is because if we're going to keep the Murray-McAndrew double,
that's been stated that will happen.
We are more vulnerable because the Western Bulldogs are a far harder running side than Collingwood. We know that Collingwood are very concerted. They're not as hard running as the Bulldogs, so they're not going to run you off your feet as much. The Bulldogs will try and run you off your feet with hard running. Yeah. And I think for that reason, if we're going to have Murray on the bench as the 5th, I'm not sure whether we can carry 60% of Saligo as the 4th. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but then you've got one less midfielder to share the load. So,
well, no, because you replace Saligo with Rankin. That's what I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I would rather have 80% game time from Rankin than 60% game time from a half prepared Saligo.
Yeah, well, if you go along that line, then you're actually narrowing it between Saligo and Peatling. Peatling's fit and Saligo is working towards it, so it would isolate Saligo out on that basis.
But isn't it a nice problem to have?
Well, it is actually, because instead of saying we're scratching for somebody we want for a spot, we're trying to get somebody out to get somebody in.
Yeah.
Well, we know we're going to bring Rankin in, and that's been stated as well. That's factual.
Yeah.
So I mean, somebody's going out, and we know it's not going to be Murray. That's been stated as well. So we know, therefore, it's got to be another mid-stroke forward who's going to go. So So that really limits it to who the players can be, and probably the most likely ones are, well, as I say, Pedler, Saligo, Peatling, but Saligo is the one that's most probably underdone. So
it'll be interesting. And look, when Solly gets fully fit, he's in my best 23, no question about it. But it then begs the question: how long do we carry Toby Murray and I love that setup. I've been advocating for it all pre-season, don't get me wrong, but what it does is then it does put the squeeze on, and the person that I think in the long run should be under the pump, Macca, is Rory Laird.
Look, yeah, I mean, some of his disposal was terrible last week. Absolutely
Some
shocking.
of it.
Oh Jesus! No, look, it's 50%. It was pretty ordinary. The trouble is he's so good at getting the bloody ball. If he could only kick. But no, he'll still be in there because that structure won't alter.
Well, last year, one of the things that we thought was that despite Laird's shortcomings disposal-wise, he was still a bit of a general, right? But from what I've seen so far this season, the thing that concerns me the most with Rory is that he's lost a yard of pace, and he wasn't a quick player to start off with. And so I feel like the turnovers that we're seeing from him, because it's more now than just the high kicks to contests or the slow ball movement, he's now actually turning the ball over. And to me, that's because he's lost a yard of pace and he's under a little bit more pressure.
Well, I think you can't argue with what you just said. That's factual. And, it would be a good situation if, as the season goes on, we could just work one of the young lads into the team to take his place. I think it's going to be hard to get him out, though, because he gets a number high numbers of getting the ball. But, as you say, it's the burning of it. But we had this situation with Smith for years, and they tolerated it. We've got it with Laird, and they tolerate it. So I just think we're probably going to put up with it all year, and this probably be his last.
I don't know about that, Macca. Like, would you have said last year that the coaching group and the selection committee would have picked Lockie McAndrew over a fit Riley O'Brien? Absolutely not.
No, I wouldn't have said that. I agree with you. That actually, I'm delighted they did it. But I didn't think they'd have the balls to do it.
And also, we were discussing on the wrap on Sunday night, and I'm sure you watched it, Macca, because you hang off our every word when you're not on yourself. The fact that Matthew Nicks seems slightly different in his demeanour this year and doesn't necessarily seem as nervous and jittery and all that. And I just wonder whether Murray Davis now been in a year, we've got Barmy in, we've got a couple of other ex-players in, we've got Mark Rasciuto, for all intents and purposes, now left the building, etc., etc. There seems to be, to me, Nick seems a little bit more freed up, and I think the McAndrew decision is a testament to that. And I don't think that Rory Laird's position is cast in stone. I certainly think that it's not a decision they would take lightly. But we've seen Saligo will be possibly forced out of the team. Nankervis at the moment can't get a spot in the team. We've got Mitch Hinge, who also can't get a spot in the team when he's fit at the moment. He wouldn't break into this side.
No.
We've got Charlie Edwards, who's probably ready for a debut at some point. Sid Draper's got to work his way into it, and by the way, news for those that don't know, he hurt his ankle, but scans have cleared him, so he's all right. And as Sid Draper,
right,
we've got big man's favourite Zach Taylor, who looks now to not be in a position to force his way into the side.
No, he won't. No.
And we've got another young lad with Mitch Marsh, who looked like he could also play a wing quite comfortably.
Like him.
So we've got
great choice.
We've got 5 or 6 players. Obviously, there'll be injuries during the course of the season, but if there's not, then I think we've got enough players coming through that Rory Laird can't get the free pass or the golden ticket. I just don't think... It would be quite easy for us to put Bond back into, for example, into that small defensive role and bring Luke Nankervis back into the back 6. I don't think we'd lose anything there.
No, I think that's a very realistic opportunity. Yep. Or a Hinge.
So, and it's for that reason, and also the little change in demeanour that I've seen from Nick's so far this season, that makes me think that Lairdy's spot isn't a lay down. It will certainly be a decision that is taken more heavily than, say, dropping a first or second year player. But I think I think it will be discussed, I think.
Yeah, interesting. It's just in that little discussion we just had then, we nominated probably about, I don't know, somewhere between 4 and 5 players that could easily come into the side but can't get in because other players have just sort of grabbed out those spots in front of them. And it's been, that has been helped to contribute by the last couple of years by us bringing players in from other clubs as well. But it's a good situation to be in where you've got players that that if you do get injury, you can slot them in. The bad part is for them, those poor buggers, they just can't get in at times.
Mm. Yeah, and that's what list management's all about, isn't it? And you would think that injury takes care of that natural churn to a degree. But I think in terms of your starting 23, it gives you some scope. And I think at the moment we need to look at Rory Laird's position. I don't think, put it this way, and no disrespect to Rory Laird, great player, club stalwart, All-Australian defender, etc., etc., etc. But every player gets to the cliff. And it just looks to me that on top of the usual flaws in Laird's game, what we're seeing now is a lack of pace, which puts him under more pressure, even perceived pressure. And as a consequence now, he's actually starting to, even though the stats only marked him down for 3 clangers, I reckon he turned the ball over. Cost us at least a couple of goals. And, I don't feel like he had much of a positive impact on our win. Do you?
Well, I think 3 clangers is very generous. I thought there was a lot more than that. I thought I don't know what his efficiency rating was. I would have thought he operated around about 2/3 at best. And so, and he had quite a few possessions, so that leaves quite a few clangers. Look, I think, I do think that he'll probably hang on to his spot most of the year. There could be a chance that down the track a little bit. I certainly early in the year he's going to hang on to his spot. But as the season goes on, that's when they might try, give him a rest and try someone else. But I can see him hanging on to his spot lead for, the first half dozen games anyhow.
Yeah, look, just going back through his stats, I've just put them up. 25 touches, 19 kicks, 6 handballs, 1 clearance, 5 contested and 17 uncontested possessions, 4 rebound 50s and 3 clangers. Looking at the numbers, that's a solid game, but I don't recall any of those disposals being particularly damaging, and I recall a couple of them going straight to the opposition. And in general, he didn't contribute to any sort of fast movement out of defence.
Yeah, and I think that basically is a good summary of him. But look, he's an honest toiler. Doesn't get beaten a lot in a one-on-one situation for the ball, but his usage of the ball is horrible. That's really where he lets himself down. And I think that's probably be his last year. It's a little bit like Smith, and where Smith faded as the year went on, and then he got replaced. That might happen here too.
Well, I'm not so much interested in whether it's his last year. I'm interested in his current performances, and on performance now, I would say that he is the most vulnerable out of anyone in the group. I can't think of anyone more vulnerable than him in the group. In fact, anyone who gets dropped this week is pretty unlucky in my opinion.
Oh, very much so. I have to totally agree. I wouldn't like to be picking the side and then going and telling a player that they're not going to play after last week. So,
yeah, that's right. All right, mate. I think that just about does us for the show. But we will leave with your tip.
I'm pretty confident. I do rate the Bulldogs, but I think we'll win by 13 points.
Yeah, no, look, I think so too. And just a reminder for those in Discord, of course, it's not too late to join the tipping comp. I forgot to put half my tips in last week, which was bloody stupid, but typical of me. But you can join the tipping comp. Just join our Discord, or if you're in Discord already, all you got to do is put /tip in, and you can tip away to your heart's content. Let me just have a look. Who's winning the tipping at the moment? Let's see if I can put that up somewhere. Where is it, Macca? Can I put it up somewhere? No, I can't put it up somewhere. I'll certainly find out, though, who the current tipping winners are, or leaders. Just bear with me a second. Put on some hold music. Tipping leaderboard. Who we got at the moment? We have Tivor on Tivor on 10, Consuelo on 9, J-Mac also on 9, Vegemite on 9, Big Mick on 9, Raven Man on 8, Munja on 8, and then Stupid Me on 4 because I only put in one tip. And then Patrick, I think, forgot his tips as well. He's on 3. So no one has gone out too hard. So if you want to be a part of our tipping competition, I would still get around it if I was you. Get into the Discord channel and just use /tip. Or if you want to know any of the commands in Discord, because there's a lot of functionality in there now, just put in /help, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there to help you use that channel. All right, Macca, I reckon the Bulldogs, I can't remember the last time the Bulldogs won in Adelaide against Adelaide. It'll be a while. They don't play here very often.
No, I can't remember it either, and I don't want it to happen. So I would like to be saying when we talk next week, I can't remember when they last beat us, so that'd be good. I know it's an important game. I really want us to win it because it's that start with momentum at the beginning of the season, and if we can do it, it's great. So it's an important game. Let's do it, and I think we will.
It'd be good to be 2-zip going to the Cattery.
Yeah.
So, and I think we'll do it. I actually am quite confident. I think we'll win. It'll be a great game, I think. I think it'll be interesting to see how much we try and shut the Bulldogs down versus just try to outrun them. So I think tactically it'll be a very interesting game. It'll give us an insight into our coaching philosophy, I think. I think the Bulldogs have only got one way to play, and that's fast.
Yes, it is.
I do think we have a couple of different modes, so it'll be interesting to see what triggers we pull during the course of the game. But I think probably about 4 goals, mate.
4? I think
about 4 goals. Adelaide Oval effect.
Well, I'd love you to be right. That would take out a little bit of tension and pressure during the game if that was the case.
Well, 4 goals is nothing in the modern game.
No, but beats 11 points that I was got 13 points I was going for. So, yeah.
All right. Look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on YouTube and on Discord. The support that we've had on YouTube at this season has been fantastic. And again, we've had close to 100 concurrent viewers all night on YouTube. So thank you everyone who's watched us on YouTube. If you're not yet a subscriber and you've enjoyed the content, please go ahead and subscribe or give us a like, or leave a comment, all that sort of stuff. And if you haven't joined our Discord channel yet, as I said, please feel free to do so. Macca, it's been wonderful. I always enjoy our Tuesday night chats, mate. It's and I hope everyone else does too. And have a good week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Yep, and hopefully smiling my head off because we've had another win. So, good night all.
All right, good night, everyone.